presenting Graphic Flash, Illustrated Readings to Music. I made that up. We didn't really have a name for this, but I think Illustrated Readings to Music is gorgeous. And short, flash fiction writers, very short. I'm going to talk about the journey the fiction writers made to get to this point, and then I'll hand the floor to Amy Bartell, who will tell you about the artists. But first, a couple of things. First, I'd like to thank Mike McCabe, who has been our technical advisor on this throughout. And if we could just give him a shout. And I'd like to say a few remarks about flash fiction in general. It could be argued that the history of American flash fiction is as short as the genre itself. But in recent years, flash fiction has taken off in the United States, appearing in journals across the country devoted entirely to this short and challenging form. Ernest Hemingway always wanted to rise to a challenge, and flash fiction is a challenge, has given us his own interpretation. It is a story of 6 words that reads, quote, "For sale, baby shoes, never worn," unquote. And having just read that, it occurs to me that the illustrators are probably already thinking, how would I go about it? You know, I know you guys are, I have come to believe that the illustrators can illustrate anything. We could have given them a word apiece and they would have gone to town on it. But the writers you're going to hear today had a few more words than Hemingway did, 250 words to be exact, which is a little less than the length of a typed double-spaced page. The challenge for the writers has been how to make a very short piece of prose echo and resonate with meaning long after its precious few words have ended. You'll soon find, I believe, that these young writers have done this. The stories you'll hear began as rough drafts in a workshop. They've been revised several times. I would have you know how much information you've been given after hearing each story, how quickly and vividly the characters must come to life, and how immediately you enter an emotional landscape. These stories may be short on the page, but it's fair to say that they're deep and wide in terms of the human condition. And now I'll give you Amy Bartell for the next stage of our graphic flash journey.
So this has been a really incredible collaboration. And so part 1 took place in the writing class. And while you were writing your stories, the illustrators were patiently awaiting Adoption Day. And Adoption Day was actually 2 days, and it was a weekend over which time you were supposed to email your stories to the illustrators. And I can tell you that I have never received as many emails over a weekend as I have over Adoption Weekend when your work was received, and wonderfully so. And that you were randomly paired is part of what makes this collaboration so exciting. So how it went on our end is that, in art, we get the great joy of inspiration from everywhere. And so to be given your words and to be given your stories as the platform for what we do is a great honor and a gift. So when the stories were received and people had the chance to read them and start working with them, it was a fury of sketching and thinking and immediate connections to words, other words, and music, and a freedom to take what you do and make it into what you will see again today. So I'd like to thank, before I give you the names of the folks who illustrated this work, I also want to thank the teaching assistants from Digital Illustration, Amanda Blakely and Mark Tate, who, without their assistance, none of this would have happened. Mark is also responsible for the Graphic Flash logo, which we've decided we're just going to use every time we use our Graphic Flash, because it's really good. It's really good. Much like your work is short, Mark had 2 days to come up with that Graphic Flash logo, and he did it, and he did a fine job. So thank you to Amanda and Mark for this. In whatever order your names appeared on my computer, these are the names of the illustrators whose work you'll see today. Amy Anno, Ann Greco, Dan Laird, Dan Lynch, David Swift, Jake LePan, Jessica Guarino, Joseph Ostrom, John Woodworth, Julia Baldwin, Caitlin Cardone, Kareem El-Amrani, Kelly Verdure, Kenny Kajogo, Lori Jackson, Leonard Abramovich, Mark Tate, Mary Taylor, Pat Donahue, Rose Van Tyne, Sarah Semmet, Stephanie Arney, Stephanie Barkley, and Tim Mosier. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to the writers for allowing us into your world and allowing us a window into such a vast series of words. So thank you for that. And without further ado, our first writer, Blake Anderson.
My name is Blake Anderson, and my story is titled Chain. Her sing-song voice broke through the quiet. I lifted my head and stared into the dark end of the hole. The chains binding my arms above my head rattled when I moved. "Who's there?" I called. "The last love of your life." Her voice was sweet as honey. It was strange. I found it sounded distant, yet very close at the same time. I shrugged off the notion and asked her name, Melinda. So we talked about everything for hours. She was chained up as well, so we could never see each other. But I appreciate the light conversation, for it was the only human contact I'd had in how long? Do you think we're the only two alive on this trip? It depends on your definition of alive, darling. Am I dying? There was silence, telling me I already knew the answer to that question. The rusty metal walls around us groaned in protest against the thousands of tons of water pressing in on the sub from all sides. I slumped back against the chains. What was I doing? She probably wasn't even real. That's right, darling. I tried to tune her out, but I knew I had to ask one last question. Why did you taunt me with conversation? When she answered, her voice was fainter than before. Because death is cruel, darling. Then, just before her voice faded into nothing, and you have only just begun to die.
My name is Paige Belisle, and my story is called Roman Arena, Verona, Italy. I sit up at the top looking down, the tour guide with the straw hat barely in earshot. He's telling the group they do opera here now, though once the space was used for something else. The white stone is too hot against my thighs, my skin is too sticky, my sundress is too tight. I want to be one of the children I keep seeing who play in the fountains of the piazzas, bare-skinned and kicking up water as they run, but I'm too old for that. My parents sit near the back of the group lately. She's turned to face him, her expression limp, murmuring something I've heard before. He's wearing dark glasses, and I know his eyes are on the far side of the ruins. "You never see me," she yells it when she's drunk. Everyone in the cafe is staring at the three of us. She's wearing the dress we bought from the street vendor in Venice, the one with the open back that I helped pick out. When she leans forward to pull the map out of her tote, that ugly bruise looks straight at me. I wish the guy would be honest with us, because I know the truth. Those beasts and gladiators would aim right for the jugular. The story is called Butterfly Box. We sat back to back in the cold museum, Alice's crutches leaning up against the wide bench. They kept it dark so there'd be more attention on the display cases, but I was trying to read the map in the brochure. I'm like one of them, I think. We were in the Hall of Insects. Alice pointed at one of the hundreds of moths and butterflies pinned behind the glass. My stomach turned. Jesus Christ. I stood, but she kept staring at the wall. In the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face. The fluorescents overhead blinding, like they'd been in the ER 3 weeks earlier. Blinding, like the stage lights and the heartbeats before the fall. That's what we were calling it now. When I heard the shouting and alarms over the running water, I knew instinctively that it was my fault again. I pushed through the swinging door and found her limp in the arms of the security guard. Broken glass on the floor, people pointing at the hole the crutch had made. In the office, they asked me questions, and I wondered who I was. Boyfriend, friend, or just the former New York City ballet dance partner, and then I wondered if it really mattered. Driving back, her eyes were lifeless in the passenger seat. More lifeless than when they deciphered the x-rays for us. More lifeless than the tiger swallowtail she'd willingly held out in her palm. Delicate, brilliant, and dead.
Hi, I'm Nelson Carroll, and my first story is called BFFs. Martin she says, momentarily looking up from the vintage Cosmo she pretends to read. I don't do that, then. I'm sorry. Not really meaning it. Her dark eyes switch back to the faded pages. She crosses her ripped stocking legs. Underneath the origin of man, or who knows what, silence. It's obvious she wants to ask for a cigarette, but can't muster the courage. On the picnic table, her unopened bag of mushrooms and my copy of Luigi's Mansion with the memory card in the case. Which item is more depressing? Who could say? Tonight was supposed to be good, legendary. She doesn't say anything, still doesn't sigh, just keeps flipping pages. One rips a little at the bottom. Her phone buzzes. A text from Adam. Do you want to go to IHOP? In Adam's car, through the window, everything at eye level is split in half. Trees fall, houses slice horizontally. People, there are no people out at this hour. Adam flips through radio stations. Leave it on, she said to him playfully, but he goes back to the rap station. He lights a cigarette in his mouth, takes a drag, then hands it to her, who smokes it, rolling down her window just a crack. You guys beat Luigi's Mansion yet, he asks. The Mohawk guy takes our order. Adam gets the usual. She wants a coffee. They're out of vanilla ice cream. What'll it be then? The waiter says to me, and then everyone waits. Skipping school to do bad things. We smoke a joint in the bathroom, and on the wall it reads, "Too many doggies," which Apple Kid thinks is funny, but he thinks everything is too funny. What are we going to see? He mumbles, rubbing his eye. I don't know. What's it about? Denzel Washington. Our feet stick to the floor with each step, echoing around the empty theater. We had stayed up all night watching TV Land and eating cotton candy, and decided seeing a movie would be better than going to high school. No one was there to stop us. We sit down in the back, reeking of ganja, coughing and laughing, and the previews start, and we are silent. That strange beam of light floating above us, illuminating the dust, Rainbow Road, carrying us away from this dirty city. And the movie starts, but I can't really see the screen, so I close my eyes and keep thinking about how much I hate my workaholic mother, how much I hate stupid preppy Sarah, my girlfriend, how much I hate the fact that Apple Kid loves her so bad, but I would keep her forever just because I could. And wide-eyed, a theater employee crouches over me, shakes me awake. Apple Kid is gone. You need to get out of here. What? Something terrible's happened, he says, just down the street. Above, the light no longer penetrates the stale air. What? The Twin Towers, he says, shaking me, nearly in tears. What?
My name is Brian Cassell, and this is my story in the bag. Jamie fell in love with one of the orange kittens Susan had brought to school immediately. She named him Copper. She brought Copper home to their small green white trailer. Mommy's eyes were big and red. Your father isn't going to go over this. She inhaled her cigarette and looked away. He's going to kill me. Jamie and Copper played all day. Copper especially liked knocking over and chasing Daddy's beer cans. Jamie brought him down to the Batavia Kill, the river behind the trailer, to chase frogs. When Daddy's truck pulled in, Mommy shooed Jamie and Copper into Jamie's bedroom. Jamie heard them having one of their loud talks and knew Mommy was telling Daddy about Copper. Jamie made Copper a shoebox bed but kept him close until she heard Daddy leave his bedroom that night. She rushed Copper into his shoebox and jumped into bed, closing her eyes tight like she always did when Daddy came in. Jamie kissed Copper before school in the morning. When she got home, Jamie asked Mommy where Copper was. Mommy sat there, eyes red and puffy, not saying a word. She went outside to see if Copper was chasing frogs. Daddy was outside throwing a bag of trash into the river like he often did. It took Jamie time to build up the courage to talk to him. Have you seen Copper, Daddy? He turned and began walking away without looking at her. The cat's in the bag.
dark color is a lot like night. Maybe that's why I drink it before bed. So warm and cozy, like climbing under the covers. Like a safety blanket, nothing bad can happen when you sleep. My first cup was when I was 4 years old. My grandmother gave it to me with a bedtime story. I spit it out then, wondering why it tasted so strange. I don't really remember when the taste began to soothe me. I've always told people it was an acquired taste. Of course, everyone who drinks tea has a few mugs. The same grandmother gave me a green one, covered in brown leaves. It was for my 16th birthday. Sadly, I dropped it on my 18th. After that, I had a new favorite mug. I believe every tea drinker has one. It's mostly white, except for a design on the front. It's a green and purple Celtic knot, received at a dinner party for my 26th birthday. My husband had given it to me then. We'd been married for almost a year. Now, almost 60 years later, I sit alone at the edge of my bed. My husband died of a heart attack several years ago. Staring into the very mug he bought me, I have a feeling. Call it intuition, but I have the idea that this will be my very last cup.
My name is Shannon Donahue, and my story is how I became the sea. Push and pull. Every day, all day and night, that's all I do. Push and pull. I lap at the shores and the thought amusing, entertaining, pretty. I am a novelty. They have lost their ancient reverence for me, their fear of the unknown. They have forgotten my great and mysterious powers, the grand tumultuous storms, the secrets hidden in my depths. Now they build boats and levees and walls. They've tried to tame me. No longer. My friend comes to me from the south, bringing powerful winds that churn deep within me. I thrash and surge, overturning boats, sucking them down into darkness. I crash against a wall of sandbags and laugh at their stupidity. I smash against the land, reaching my fingers as far and fast as possible. I want to cover this earth, to smother the dirt and rocks in my bosom. An ancient thrill fills me with the rise of their screams. It's been so long since I commanded their awe and respect. I swell above their pathetic wall again, heaving against the weak attempts to pin me in. Their fragile levees cannot contain me. They break. The tumult grows, smashing docks, toppling the boardwalk and flooding houses, sweeping away everything. I think I will settle here for a while, claim this land as my own, to remind them just how amusing I can be.
My name is Mary Gleason, and my story is called Wingman. Every girl needs a wingman. The trick to luring in a good guy is to get in his mind and understand what he likes. Billy has great insight to this. Our tactics are usually very simple but effective. Billy is athletic, something I personally look for in a guy. So he often suggests we go to the beach and toss a frisbee around. I know what you're thinking. A girl going to the beach with her wingman deters prospective guys. But with Billy, this is never really an issue. Guys are always asking to join us. On rainy days, Billy and I have Dexter marathons. As soon as the weather breaks, he insists we go for a jog. He's always keeping my figure in check. If he sees a guy checking out my strides, he'll stop and shake his wet hair at me. I get mad that he's contributing to my unintentional wet t-shirt contest, but I know he's just playing around. Again, you must be thinking, why don't you just date this wonderful wingman? Don't get me wrong. Billy's great. In fact, I fell in love with Billy the moment I met him. Yeah, he's a bit hairy and his breath can sure kick in the morning, but he'll be forever faithful to me and with no strings attached. No matter how many guys Billy helps me meet, he reminds me that it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and every girl should own a dog instead of looking for one.
My name's Emily Griffin, and this is my story, Extinguished. Billy's been dead for 10 minutes now. He's slumped in the hospital bed at an awkward angle, his skin sickly and gray, covered in a sheen of sweat, slack-jawed, eyelids hovering at half-mast. I almost expect him to look up at me and start joking. What, you think a little heart attack could put me down? No, man, not likely. A few years ago, we were both working the night the house on Battle Hill caught fire. It was one of those blazes where you know the place is fucked the instant you see it. Once inside, we realized no one could be saved. We almost made it out of the house when a flaming beam tore loose, crashing onto Billy. It knocked him out on impact. By the time I wrenched him out from under the beam and dragged him to safety, I was sure he was dead. The paramedics got a hold of him, and after what seemed like way too long, Billy came to. He ripped the oxygen tubes from his nose and looked up at me, a smirk unfolding into a smile on his ash-ridden face. His eyes were alight, brighter than anything I've ever seen, and all I could say was, "Holy fuck, that was something." I turned away quickly, leaving the hospital room without saying goodbye. I can't stand looking into the cold, frozen eyes of a friend who once was on fire.
My name is Jen Roseman, and my story is called Wasteland. I sat on the side of the tracks with Elliot, waiting for the next train to go by. He liked to count the cars. He had come to work on my ranch for the summer, and he was leaving in a month. I was envious that soon he would be on his own train, leaving me to rot in a barren wasteland. He asked me if I'd ever been to California. I told him no, but it would be nice to visit someday. A train whistle echoed across the stretch of Nevada desert, and suddenly Elliot's attention was off me and on the machine barreling toward us. I watched him watch the train, his face pensive yet expectant. We sat in silence as the train flew past us, kicking up dust as it made its way down the tracks. I wondered if he ever thought about me, and if I would ever get a chance to visit California, and if he would take me with him wherever he was going. The last of the train cars passed us, and his eyes followed their path. I looked out past the train, past everything until the vast horizon. There was a divide between the blood-red sky and the dry, cracked ground, and I wondered if the two ever touched. I knew they never would, but I wanted desperately to believe that they did. He asked me where I thought the train was headed. I told him California.
My name is Samuel Hadley, and the title of my story is The Guy in My Back Room. As far as I know, I've never seen the guy, but I hear him every time I walk into my kitchen, eating chips, drinking coffee, even sawing, which raises a couple of questions. Should I declare him on my census, and am I safe? One night, I got terribly drunk. I stumbled into the kitchen and started cracking eggs and sizzling bacon. Then I heard a soft mumbling from the back room. I figured I'd ignore it. That room is only for storing junk. The guy jiggled the doorknob. I dropped my spatula. Another night, I awoke from a galloping nightmare and saw a dark figure at the end of my bed. I pulled the covers over my head, out of sight, out of mind. The next morning, I went in the kitchen for breakfast, and my food was gone. I didn't think I ate it. A ghastly smell emanated from the back room. Once, I went hunting and stumbled across a deer that had been rotting. It emitted the same hellish smell. What's the guy doing with the dead deer? I wondered. The table saw went off. Later, my mother called and asked if she could borrow the saw. I thought about telling her someone was in my house, but she was looking for a reason to put me back in a cast. I told her, sure, you can borrow it. Come look in my back room.
My name is Josh Lewis, and this is my story of Sanctuary. Wanted for a crime he did not commit, he fled to his people's final stronghold. Razor Leaf Sanctuary, silent sentinel to those who call the Moonglades their home. He gazed at the massive edifice that stood before him. The ancient structure had fallen into disrepair after years of abandonment, but that hadn't diminished its beauty in the slightest. Great sandstone pillars supported the crumbling roof, and the inside was dense with wild, overgrown plants. It wasn't considered architecture to the people of the forest. It was more like artwork, a museum of stone to be preserved. As he inhaled the smells of deciduous leaves and flowers, he thought he detected something else, a hint of rain. A storm was approaching. His senses picked up another odor, the foul stench of smoke. A group of foreign soldiers, armed to the teeth, approached the sanctuary. They had found him. The colossal monument from the past was his only hope for reprieve. He made a mad dash for the structure, taking refuge inside of it. Come out, wherever you are, little man. You can't hide forever, he heard the commander jeer from the grove. A moment passed, and he remained silent. Let's smoke him out, boys. Before he could speak, a blazing conflagration erupted in the center of the structure, showering fragments of stone upon him. Crushed beneath a boulder, the fugitive looked closely at the artwork, his sanctuary, for the first and last time.
My name is PJ Mason, and my first story is Not for Twos. He sat looking out at the garden. It had been raining all morning, just stopping in the last few minutes. The raindrops dripped off the flower petals. It was like the garden was crying. He focused on the flowers and the drowned colors, trying to avoid his reflection in the sliding glass door. Half of a pale, gaunt face stared back at him. He stopped looking. Edgar, it would help if you would try to pay attention. The doctor sat on the couch staring at him expectantly. I am trying to help you. She then went back to her notes, looking over her glasses at them. This needs to be discussed, Edgar. Edgar wheeled himself from the window, working around his IV, and fake smiled at her. I thought it was good to take my meds. She raised her eyebrows at him. Hoarding all your pills to take at once is not the prescription you got, Edgar. I wanted to sleep. Sleep? With the nightmares that you got, Edgar. Good God, why? The doctor wrote on her pile of notes. My dreams are the only time I can see her smiling. The doctor unconsciously stared down at the old bandages on his wrists. You were lucky that your neighbor is a paramedic. He found you just in time. Edgar spun back to the garden. His gaze glided past the flowers and to the brick wall that surrounded him. He only found one of us in time. Stomping grounds. Yuri and Constantine slowly walked through the forest. Yuri had asked Constantine to help him dig up some boxes that were buried in the forest. Constantine had held him back with his brothers a short while, and had left it the chance to convince them of his usefulness. Early spring had brought more warmth and melting than most years. The forest was revealing itself quickly. The birds chirped down at them as they made their way deeper into the forest. The birds seemed so happy to entertain them. Constantine broke the silence finally. I appreciate this, Yuri. The others haven't been so happy to work with me yet. They don't like me, I think. Yuri smiled at him. I don't care about popularity contests. I care for hard work and for loyalty. Nothing else matters to me. They went on. At midday, they stopped in the clearing. The sun had stripped it of much of the winter snow. Dead, wet leaves were peeking through what was left of the drifts. This is it, Yuri said. Constantine looked back at Yuri and smiled. Again, thank you, Yuri. He looked around, noticing that the plain was more of a small swamp. You are sure, Yuri? You've been out here before? Yuri smiled to himself sadly. He took out a small pistol and shot Constantine in the back of the head. The crack made its way through the forest. Many times, Yuri whispered. The birds kept singing.
My name is Shannon Mayo, and my story is called Wash, Rinse, Repeat. My husband buys our son G.I. Joe dolls. He insists that they're masculine action figures that will inspire our son to do masculine things. He puts the doll in our son's high chair and walks into his study for the gin and tonic he thinks I don't know about. Our son slobbers on it and puts his Cheerios over Joe's body. My son's father tells my son, the soldier stands above the civilian. When my son's father falls asleep, I take my son outside. I show him the massacre the soldiers caused. I show my son broken schoolhouses, disregard for human life, disregard for his life. When I bring my son home, I bathe him, making sure to scrub the despair out before I put him to bed. Wash, rinse, repeat. A man that I once called husband takes my son on trips he thinks I don't know about. He takes my son to a shooting range. My son shoots an assault rifle at a paper man. My son is overjoyed. My son comes to me at night. Oh me, I shot a paper man today, right between the eyes. He is proud. What was the paper man's name? He has no answer. I watch my son sleep, the room littered with G.I. Joe dolls. I've grown to like Joe. I grown to know that he's the only American soldier that will ever care for my son.
My name is Graham Wella. My story is titled Shadows. The people shone with the radiance that was blinding. Standing within the crowd, he reached for the light, only to find the darkness around him wouldn't let him grab it. At times it felt the light would shine through him as well, but with the surge, the shadows smothered its brilliance. Defeated, he sat on a bench, forced to be satisfied with simply watching the luminescent sea of people. The shadows began to converse, their words lost at the edge of his consciousness. Time seemed to have slowed down as he watched all the different lights enter and leave the park. His attention moved to one specific girl, who shone brighter than the rest. She moved with a purpose, striding right toward him. The shadows stopped their conversation. They too fixed on this single entity. The blackness rolled around him, unleashing a battery of whispers, urging him to run. Breaking the circle of darkness, he stepped out, ready to meet the light. The shadows formed right behind him. Eyes burning from her intensity, he looked for one last time at the darkness. I've got this by myself, guys. As he stepped out to meet her alone, the shadows that encased him began to falter. Light began to spread out all over him, the darkness desperately trying to cover it. With one final step, the black shell encasing him shattered, and he too shone as brilliant as all those he envied.
My name is Amanda Muller, and my story is called AD. My friend Les came to help me dig the grave. There was a patch of dirt just big enough for the hole in the corner of the yard by the pool, and there had once been a playhouse we bought for my daughter when she was little. She went in the house once, found a spider, and never played it in again. The grass wouldn't grow when we got rid of it, so it had just been an ugly patch of dirt ever since. The dog ran around the yard without a care in the world while Les and I dug. She picked up thistles and pulled up the grass. Normally I would have yelled for her to stop, but my throat constricted and I couldn't. This is a sick dog, I asked myself. The vet says she won't even last until Thanksgiving, but you wouldn't have known it by looking at her. She ran after squirrels and barked for a long time after they jumped the fence to safety. She crinkled her forehead when she looked at me, a question mark on her face. You're dying, I told her. Try to act like it. After the dog is dead and buried, my daughter wants a puppy. The house feels too empty, she says. The puppy is cute, but he's not sweet like our girl always was. A few months pass, and grass finally starts to grow over the dirt patch. She's dead, I tell myself. Why can't she act like it? This story is called Casualties of War. Even when my parents aren't home, the ghosts of their yells reverberate through the empty house. It's a scene of war, and I'm among the civilians caught in the crossfire. My friend Jocelyn tells me my mom has called her dad, the divorce lawyer. Jackie's mom gives me her cell phone number, tells me to call her if I need to talk. Aunt Janice cries as she drives me home, as if it's her marriage that's falling apart. One day, I awake to my mom screaming into the phone, her loud voice calling me away from my dreams, the only place I can find peace anymore. I want you to break up with your girlfriend, she cries. I can't even muster the energy to feel surprised. When she slams the phone down, I pretend to be fast asleep. She opens my door and hides into my twin-sized bed. I make strangled waking up noises, open one of my eyes. I know you heard that, she says. I cuddle close to the wall, not wanting her to touch me. I just woke up, I lie easily. I do that a lot now. Sorry, she whispers. She puts a hand on my back and rubs in circles, the way she does when I'm upset. For the first time ever, I shrug her off. I can feel hot tears hit my neck, but she doesn't leave. I'm almost ashamed of myself as I close my eyes and pretend to fall back to sleep.
My name is Theolyn Potts, and my story is titled Buffalo Style. Ladies first, he says. waiting for me to slide into the booth. He squeezes in to my left, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. He smiles at me. I smile out the window, watching a seagull in the parking lot. The gull's caught inside a plastic bag, its head stuck in one of the handles. Molly and John sit across the table from us, hands clasped under the table. They don't even look at the menu. When the waitress comes over, they order burgers and onion rings to share. I don't know what I want. Want to split an order of wings, he asks? Sure, I tell him. He asks for a single order, mild. He slides his arm from around my shoulders to my waist, his fingers lukewarm against my side. When our food comes, I say I'm not hungry. He eats the mild wings while I crave hot. His elbow digs into me as he raises the wings to his lips. I remind myself that it's not his fault the booze is cramped. The seagull hops around the parking lot, still stuck. I listen as he and John and Molly eat and talk and laugh, but keep my eyes on the gull. I watch until it turns the corner, still thrashing. I turn back to the table. He has finished the wings. Only bones remain. And this is my story, green jello. It's hard to move when you're green jello. It's like your muscles, your bones. They're just gone. All you can really do is stay where you're put. Mull over what a quivering mess you are. Think to yourself, today I will get the mail, or I will do the crossword puzzle this afternoon. But today passes, and this afternoon becomes tomorrow morning. Undone crosswords collect on the coffee table, and you get a call from the post office telling you your service is temporarily suspended. You haven't collected your mail in weeks because you're still green jello. I didn't used to know I was green jello. A few weeks ago, my son Ronnie came by to cheer me up. Apparently he's managing a cheese shop and dating a pharmacist. It was nice, but then the next day he made me lunch. Tomato soup and grilled cheese cut into 4 triangles. I couldn't eat very much, but it was a sweet thing for Ronnie to do. A nice gesture. But then he made me green jello for a snack, and I just stared at it. Ronnie kept saying, "Come on, Ma, eat," but I couldn't eat it. I thought a lot about that green jello. After a day, or maybe 2, Ronnie said I had to get up from the table, or he'd get the doctor. Now Ronnie's back in Wisconsin, and I'm back at Kittling State, thinking, today Ronnie might visit, or maybe tomorrow I will get to go home.
I'm Jonathan Pohl, and this is Black and White. 7:15 a.m. The world is still brand new, a blank palette. His little mind understands that mommy shouldn't be crying and the man shouldn't be yelling. He does the only thing he can do, cry with her. 9:35 a.m. The world takes shape and colors form. The boy asks why people hurt other people. A stunned teacher turns from the blackboard and scolds him for asking such things. They return to their history lesson, but the boy's curiosity lingers. A group of kids snicker at him. One even throws a wad of paper at his back. 11:19 a.m. The world is a murky color, as is his morality. Pubescence has taken over, the boy's logic replaced by hormones. The hallway is a war zone of kids trying to fit into a puzzle that they never belonged to. A young girl's books fall from her arms and everyone laughs. Through her tears, she snaps at the boy, watching in silence. Retaliating, he kicks the book beyond her reach. 12:38 a.m. The world is dark, like the blacks and blues and crimsons the boy has had to endure his entire life. No one hears him ask for help, a hand, or a hug, ignoring him until the day he decides to speak out. When they ask his teachers and peers, they'll say, "He was always quiet." The country will sit in front of their color TVs and wonder why a boy would spill so much red.
My name is Kayla Pratt, and this is How to Find Anything Lost. busy doing something you wouldn't typically do, like go on a run or use the back door, and only realize it's lost when you do something routine like take a shower or go to work. Check your hamper, your carpet, always check under your bed. If it's still lost, enter a brief stage of denial. Deny you lost it, deny you ever owned it to begin with, because denial segues into anger. Anger at yourself for denying its existence, for your absent-mindedness, for the stress it's now causing you. Get angry because anger will motivate you through the insufferable process of retracing your steps. Retrace your steps in the manner you might have lost it, then change your perspective. Retrace your steps by scooter or bike, stumble your steps drunk or with bifocals on while bargaining with the universe. Humble yourself so that when you phone a friend and cry it out, you'll have deserved it. And finally, resume life as it was. Take that shower, skip out on work and nap. But whatever you do, don't keep looking at the place you swear you last saw it, or curse the stranger you imagine finding it with plans to pawn it on the black market, because you'll just be like an even bigger asshole when you find it while doing something else you wouldn't typically do, like forget.
My name is Michael McCabe, and my story is called Crickets. It's so late the crickets are loud enough to echo. She's thinking, this is a little heavy-handed for a first date, and he's thinking, I'm definitely getting some action tonight. He moves closer to her so she can smell his $80 cologne. She moves closer, not to be rude. A star flickers intensely and she points to it. Somehow it stands out amid a trillion white dots on a blackened canvas. You know, she says, that star probably doesn't even exist. It's an illusion. The light takes so long to reach her, it might not even be there. Crazy, she says, rolling her eyes. He pulls her closer. I wonder what happens when the sun dies. He thinks for a moment. No, we don't have to worry about that for a long, long time. She laughs. Don't be so optimistic. A truck blares its horn in the distance, silencing the crickets. They move apart. It's getting late, she says. He takes the long way over back roads, passing homes so rustic it's like they were driving through an LL Bean catalog. He's mistaken romance for ambiance again. He's wondering if he has anything to drink at home, and she is wondering if any of the stars actually exist.